It was bold, it was risky, but it did end up paying off. We just had the craziest finish to the Divisional Cup. The whole tournament ended up being decided by an insane play out in the middle of the ocean, right at the edge of the map. I'll go over who won the tournament, which teams did well, and who struggled. Let's get straight into it. So this was the third Divisional Cup of the season, and we had a third new team win it, and that was of course Japko and Panzer. Now this is a team that have a lot of quality on paper. They haven't had the best grand finals placements previously, but they turned that all around yesterday with a huge win. And the way the tournament ended was absolute cinema. After 5 games, going into the final match, they had a 70-point lead on the team in second, which was Tjino and PabloWingu. So naturally, Tjino and Pablo had to make a big play in order to win the tournament. They decided to key Japko and Panzer at their POI of painted palms, and they were able to catch them off guard, killing Panzer, but Japko got away, and he made the play that ended up winning them the whole tournament. He retreated all the way to the edge of the map, right out in the middle of the ocean. He used the wingsuit to get there, and he simply just played out his materials, trying to stall for as long as he could against Pablo and Tjino until he was eventually killed. But this bought him enough time for Pablo and Tjino to then be third-partied by Vico and Malibuca, and they ended up going down. So this play from Japko, retreating to the edge of the map, wasting the time of Pablo and Tjino, ended up winning him the tournament. Despite the fact that he went down early, this was enough to get Tjino and Pablo killed and secure the first place for them. Perhaps Tjino and Pablo will see it as a mistake chasing Japko so far out into the ocean. At the end of the day, it looked like a decent fight at the beginning, but they used a lot of loot, they used a lot of materials, and when Vico and Malibuca came to fight them, they didn't really stand a chance. But listen, big credit to Japko for this play. It was bold, it was risky, but it did end up paying off, and this team were so good throughout the whole tournament. They won games 3 and 4. They both had the joint most kills, Japko and Panzer both with 17. The other player that had 17 also was Vico, more on him in a moment. But listen, this team, on paper, they have so much quality, and they have now finally showed their potential in a grand final setting, and I certainly don't think this will be the last we see of them. I do think they are a contender to do very well in an FNCS Grands. And by the way, as well as having the joint most kills, Japko also had the most damage. A really impressive individual performance from him. Everything from the kills, the damage, the incredible play out in the ocean. He was just on a different level yesterday. In second place, we had Vico and Malibuca, a team that have definitely been out of form lately, but I did say in previous videos that I felt like they would bounce back, and that is exactly what they have done. An excellent performance from them. They had a little bit of a slow start, but they ended the tournament in style, winning games 5 and 6. Vico also so impressive individually, obviously getting the joint most kills with 17. He also had the most kills in the open stage, so just showing how explosive he is, showing what a great player he still is, despite anyone that doubts him. Listen, this team did do really well. There was one moment that perhaps could have changed the course of the tournament had it not happened. I'll play that for you on screen now.
Double land on the mountain. Vico tries to pop a medkit. Well, that's not gonna work. Goes down the storm. Malibuca.
Definitely a big sell from Vico and Malibuca. Had they not done that, who knows where they could have finished. But listen, second place is the result they needed. They have now bounced back. They have now proved that they do have quality and potential as a duo, and I do believe that they now will kick on and build on this performance. In third place, we had Tjino and PabloWingu. Now, I didn't include these guys in my predictions because I thought they would be contested at Sandy Strip, but they actually ended up splitting it with the other team that was there, and this worked out quite well for them because there is so much loot at that POI. They had a great tournament. They also had one moment where perhaps if it hadn't have happened, it could have been a different story. They died to storm sickness in zone 6. Felt like a bit of an avoidable death, but listen, these things happen. They did ultimately play really well, and I think they made the right play, W-keying Japko and Panzer in game 6. Just didn't quite work out for them in the end. I know they were a little bit unhappy with the fact that Vico and Malibuca were the team to key them, because obviously Malibuca and Panzer are such good friends. Whether there's anything in that, I don't know, but listen, top 3 is ultimately a pretty good performance. Now let's go down the rest of the leaderboard. In fourth place, we had Frostroki and Bevies. Definitely a team that wasn't on my radar to do well, but they had a great tournament. Credit to them. In fifth place, we had a team that started out incredibly, but then lost a little bit of momentum, and that was Chap and Flixie. They won games 1 and 2. If you haven't picked up on it by now, we only had 3 duos manage wins, and they were all consecutive, which was very odd, very interesting phenomenon that. But listen, Chap and Flixie started great. They had uncontested uncontested classified Canyon, having been contested for the past 2 weeks, so I certainly felt like they were going to do well, and it looked like they were just going to go on and win, but for whatever reason, after the 2 games, they just lost consistency. They just couldn't quite keep it up, and they ended up finishing in 5th. Definitely a case of what could have been for them. In 6th place, we had Truly and Zynox, another very underrated team, one that a couple of people have been speaking about lately, but I didn't have them down in my top 10. But listen, they performed very well. I'm sure we'll be seeing more of them in the near future. In 7th place, we have probably the best duo of the chapter so far, which is of course Sky and Scroll. Now, they did win the first Divisional Cup. They came 6th last week, and unfortunately only managing a 7th this week. They were contested in a couple of games by the French duo landing below them, which contained Korapiku, who is obviously a controversial player to say the least. But listen, when you consider the fact that they were getting fought in a lot of the games, they actually did pretty well. 7th place isn't a bad finish, and I think it says a lot about their quality, that even in an adverse situation, even when the chips are stacked against them, they can still easily manage a top 10. They do have so much quality about them. In 8th place, we had Dom and Demus, a team that failed to qualify for finals last week. I did predict that they'd come back and make the top 10, and they did that successfully with an 8th place finish. The rest of the leaderboard is filled out by German-speaking duos. We had Cheatin and Yanis in 9th place, and Cringe and Volko in 10th. Now, before I take a look at my pre-tournament predictions, let's go over which EU teams underperformed, the main one of course being Shark and Teeny, who were only able to manage an 18th place finish. I, like many others, did predict them to win based on their incredible form. They came 2nd in the first Divisional Cup and of course won last week as well. It just was not their tournament, it has to be said. Unfortunately, Shark got kicked out of the first game. There were a bunch of players that this happened to: Dom and Demus, Trulax and Chicho, Tioff and Donald. A couple of teams had this issue. Unfortunately, Epic did not restart the game, so we had a bunch of duos start the tournament at a bit of a disadvantage, and ultimately I feel like this caused Shark and Teeny's heads to drop. They then had a pretty disappointing game 2 as well, and following from that, it kind of felt like there was no way back. I guess their mentality just went. They felt like they had to get a big win in order to get back in the tournament, but they weren't quite able to manage it. So listen, I think we can chalk this off as a bit of an off week. Clearly, things just didn't work in their favour. We all know how good they are as a duo. We all know their quality. And next week, I'm sure they'll be back contesting for the win. The other big team that surprised me with how much they struggled was Cami and Hari, who were only able to finish 16th from uncontested Bumpy Bay. Now, the previous 2 weeks, they have been contested by iDrop and Marius. They actually did well in one of the cups, finishing 7th from that situation, not so well in the other. But listen, the fact that they were contested, I thought that's what was holding them back, and I expected them to do really well with the POI to themselves, and it just didn't quite play out like that. Don't get me wrong, 16th isn't a terrible placement. I mean, it's still well into the top half of the lobby, but from a team of that quality with the POI they had access to, I did expect them to get at least the top 5. I predicted them to come 3rd, and they just weren't quite able to manage it on the day. Don't get me wrong, I don't think this is a massive cause for concern, but I definitely expected a bit more from this team. In terms of other underperformances, there weren't too many. We had Seti and Dinas and Thomas HD and Focus contesting each other at Ripped Tides, and as you'd expect, neither team did particularly well. Seti managing 34th and Thomas managing 40th. I do still wonder whether Seti and Dinas will be a permanent duo, as Rax is still looking for a new teammate, having split with Pix. I just feel like Seti and Rax, they were doing so well together, and they will probably do well if they form again. I feel like that has to be the duo that we see. I know that Seti is seemingly enjoying playing with Dinas, and Dinas is obviously a great player in his own right too, a very good up-and-coming Polish fighter, but for the potential that Seti and Rax could have, I feel like it would be a missed opportunity if they didn't go back to each other. So let's take a look at my pre-tournament predictions and see how I managed. I obviously put Shark and Teeny to win, and they did have an off day, only managing 18th. I wasn't too far off with Chap and Flixie. Cami and Hari ended up being a bit of a miss. Sky and Scroll, not a million miles away. Dom and Demus pretty close too. As you can see, I had Vico and Malibuca in 6th and Japko and Panzer in 7th, and they of course were the runners-up and the winner. My last 3 teams didn't make the top 10. They were Dan DePuzo and Uppel, who did win the Opens round, but ultimately only managed the 17th place. I had Prism and Casper, who managed 14th, and Pixovsky and Seren, a team who have looked really good lately. They've been in great form this season, but they only managed a 27th place. Now, over on NA Central, we had 4 EU teams qualify for the finals, and the highest placing duo was Velo and Zynox, who managed a 17th place. It was a great individual performance from Velo as well. He had the 4th most damage in the entire lobby, incredibly impressive considering he was playing on high ping. Let me know your takes about the Divisional Cup in the comment section below. Which teams impressed you? Which duos did you want to see a little bit more from? I'm always interested to hear what you guys think. Now, let's go back in time to Thursday and discuss the Performance Evaluation Cup. We had 4 separate duos win games in this, and they were all very big teams. Vico and Malibuca won game 1, obviously continuing their return to form. We had game 2 being won by Focus and Thomas HD, regarded as one of the best duos in the region right now. They managed to beat Rinzi and Xenox in the 2v2 to win the game. Rinzi is obviously Focus's brother, so a little bit of a family battle there. In game 3, Sky and Scroll won. It looked like a free win for Shark and Teeny, but they got taken out on height by a balloon. But don't worry, they were able to come back and win game 4. Shark had the most damage during the tournament, whilst the joint highest kills was 12, and Sky, Marco and Xenox all reached that number. The interesting new team that we saw in this cup was Tayson and Ghost. Now Tayson tweeted out recently saying that he was looking for the next Shark, and he has now picked up Ghost, a 15-year-old Greek player who obviously has a lot of potential, and I have to say they looked really positive during this cup. They managed 2 second places. It'll be really interesting to see how they get on playing in the Divisional Cup Opens tomorrow, as it will of course be their first Div Cup together. And over on NA Central we had a bunch of EU teams qualify as per usual, none of them able to manage a win though. The highest placement managed was a 4th by Prism and Casper. Now I'm not going to discuss the Reload Elite series today, I'll talk about the play-ins in my next video. I'll leave you with the news that we do have some leaks about how the map could change in Season 2. And spoiler, it's not going to be great for Polish teams. Based on the leaks I've seen, which obviously aren't 100% confirmed or anything, but from what I've seen, it looks like Bumpy Bay and Closey Lodge could be the POIs to leave. And obviously those are the locations that Cami and Hari and Dom and Demus land at. Those are the 2 best Polish duos in the game right now. Looks like they could be looking for new drop spots come Season 2. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, as I make these kind of videos every few days to keep you guys up to date on everything that happens in EU. If you want to support me any further, then using code SPUDSON in the Fortnite item shop is a great way to do that. Thank you very much for watching the video. See you in the next one.